Yes, hello and welcome YouTubers and Doctor Who fanatics to another Big Finish audio review, and the first one for 2017. And yes, for this Big Finish audio review, I am taking a look at The Beast of Kravenos, written by Justin Richards, which is the Season 6 opener of the 4th Doctor Adventures. Yes, recently, The Beast of Kravenos and the opening story of the monthly range, The Starmen by Andrew Smith, have been released. And yes, I will be reviewing both these stories. I was debating which one to review first, The Starmen or Beast of Kravenos. Starmen did come out first, but I decided to kickstart the year off. Let's review a Jago and Litefoot story, because Jago and Litefoot are the best. So yeah, I decided to review The Beast of Kravenos first, and then tomorrow will be my review of The Starmen. One thing I gotta say about the 4th Doctor Adventures was Season 5. It was, I would say, the most consistent season out of the entire range. The stories, they were all just magnificent stories, they were. I haven't listened to the last two, so I can't say on them, but throughout Season 5, from what I've listened to, it's been very consistent, and all the stories have just been wonderful, they have. The 4th Doctor Adventures of 2016 was a massive highlight for me, and a highlight for most Big Finish fans. And now, Season 6 is started up now with The Beast of Kravenos, and I gotta say, for Season 6, looks very interesting and very good yet again. For us Jago and Litefoot fans, this is a perfect start for the season. The Eternal Battle looks absolutely wonderful by Cavan Scott and Mark Wright, and they are favourite writers of mine when it comes to Big Finish audios like the Project series, Project Twilight, Project Lazarus. Magnificent stories, but my most anticipated one is definitely The Silent Scream. I have high hopes for James Goss. Will nail a classic right there. Season 6 looks incredible, it does, absolutely fantastic, especially the first 3 stories. They just look brilliant to me. And the other ones, like the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th release, we haven't got too much on them just yet. I have to wait for that. But yeah, The Beast of Kravenos is the return of 2 marvellous characters, our infernal investigators, Jago and Litefoot, played by Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter. And it's the second time they've appeared in the 4th Doctor Adventures range. They appeared in the Justice of Jago. Now the Justice of Jago and the Beast of Kravenos, they are very accessible releases. You don't have to worry about getting the box sets or anything like that. That's something you don't have to worry about. These are very accessible releases. You can just jump to them straight away, and you don't even need to know anything about the box sets. But one thing I think would enhance your experience and your enjoyment of these 2 releases of the 4th Doctor Adventures, Justice of Jago and the Beast of Kravenos, that you've watched the talent of Wang Chiang to get an idea of how good these characters are. And as well, if you want to, pick up the Mahogany Murderers, because that is just a stunning companion chronicle. If you got those 2, then it's really set you up in a brilliant position to experience these 4th Doctor Adventures. But you don't need to, you can jump to these whenever you want to. Season 5 was a fantastic season. So let's see if Season 6 will follow the same direction, if not, even better. So, let's review the first adventure from Season 6 of the 4th Doctor Adventures, The Beast of Kravenos by Justin Richards. So let's begin my review of it. One thing I was just super happy with this release, it's not just the fact that Jago and Litefoot, Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter are in this audio, but it's written by, I would say, the man who's done the most in the Jago and Litefoot series and developed them as characters, is Justin Richards. I was very happy to see this writer doing The Beast of Kravenos. I think it's the perfect writer because he's done the most when it comes to the Jago and Litefoot series. He's expanded the most as characters, he's done the most development for them, and he's done some very big stories and events for these characters that they have experienced, like the Blood the Soldier, that ending, which was developed and expanded on in Series 12. Fantastic character development for all the characters, and not just Jago and Litefoot, but Ellie as well. And yet I come to love Justin Richards' writing when I experience the Jago and Litefoot series, especially Litefoot and Sanders, because that still stands for me as the greatest Jago and Litefoot story. It's just perfection. See, I absolutely agree that Justin Richards should have done this story because, as I said, he's like the man behind the Jago and Litefoot series, I would say. Yeah, the story premise, the Doctor and Romana return to Victorian London and are reunited with Jago and Litefoot as this follows on from the story the Justice of Jago, as Jago does got a funny line that the Doctor has two friends called Romana and doesn't really understand the concept of regeneration. So I thought that was just a very funny line, and it gives you an idea of where this story takes place. It takes place after the Justice of Jago. But for the Doctor's timeline, I would say, is it before Leisure Hive? Is it after? You know, that's something I don't know. It seemed like in the behind the scenes that I think it was David Richardson or Nicholas Briggs, I'm not too sure who said it, but you can really place it wherever you want to, if it's before Leisure Hive, or it's after Leisure Hive, or after Meg Lost. It seemed like you can work out where you want it to go. So it's a chronological placement, it's really just opinionated really, and quite ambiguous, but I would say I would probably place it before the Leisure Hive or after, somewhere around there. So yes, the Doctor and Romana are reunited with Jago and Litefoot, with K9 around as well, and his performances and what the character goes through in this story is pretty fun, as he is the new attraction of the new Regency Theatre and doing all these performances and whatnot. Brings some nice comedy to the story, but yes, the Doctor and Romana with Jago and Litefoot are trying to do an investigation about recent murders and strange activity in the new Regency Theatre. When it comes to these Jago and Litefoot stories, the plot itself is not the only thing I really enjoy about it, but it's just like the interactions and the chemistry with all the characters. That's just something for me which can seriously drive the story, and it's just a really strong drive when it comes to the Jago and Litefoot stories. It's the characters' chemistry and interactions with one another. You know, the Fourth Doctor's interactions with like Jago and Litefoot and Romana as well. You know, it's just something I could just listen to all day. As I said, Justin Richards is the man when it comes to Jago and Litefoot releases, or just the range in general. He knows how the characters work. He's done the most development and big events for these characters. He knows how they work. He knows how to write them. He does a fantastic job writing these characters and the performances with all the cast, with Tom Baker, obviously, with Lala Ward, Christopher Benjamin and Trevor Baxter. This is obvious. But of course, they just work magnificent together and just deliver their best performance, as always.
After you, Miss Romana. So, any progress in your clandestine investigations, Doctor?
Nothing so far, but with K9 on the case, we can expect further developments very soon.
The Beast of Kravenos just has a wonderful blend of comedy and creepy storytelling, and it's blended together very well. Now, some writers, they just can't seem to make these two elements work together, but since like most Jago and Litefoot stories are focused on comedy and serious storytelling, you know, it's blended together very well, and you know, Justin Richards does this to perfection. He does. The comedy and the serious or creepy storytelling is blended together very well. None of them feel like they're overpowering the story. They're both balanced very well. Yeah, some of the comedic parts come from K9 when he's on stage and like turn into a circle to make the audience laugh, and the questions and answer session, him showing off his intellect. The comedy is wonderful, and also with the Fourth Doctor's lines, where he's quite brash, quite quick-tempered, and a little overconfident in how he talks, like he says he's completely perfect, and he says that he relies on skill rather than luck. He's quite overconfident in this story. He is written a little bit like his season 18 counterparts, and that was good writing by Justin Richards. Yeah, even though the Fourth Doctor is like slightly quite tempered in this story a little bit, you know, he does have his comedy side to it. Yeah, K9 isn't just being used for this new attraction for the new Regency Theatre, but he's here to find this very odd, strange energy readings detected in the new Regency Theatre, which is down below. So yes, this source of this strange, unnatural energy is coming below the new Regency Theatre. And yeah, the story just changes its mood when, you know, the presence of this unnatural entity can be, well, felt by the listener. Now, Jago has some quite interesting parts of this story, and he's the first one to notice this strange entity or monster, and when he tries to go for it, you know, completely disappears into thin air with this monster. The Phantom just vanishes, and then after that point it plays quite creepy Hammer horror style music, and that gave me a little bit of chills because I love Hammer horror style stories, and the music, the soundtrack to it all, or the music score, was brilliant by that stage. It really just sets up the story, but it might be quite creepy in some places. Yeah, I won't say what Jago's character is going through, But yeah, by that point he has quite a big part of the story. And yeah, it's not the first time where Jago has gone through this experience, because this has happened before in a previous box set, and if you've listened to it and this release, then you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, as I said, balanced elements very well by Justin Richards, with comedy and creepy feels to the story. Both work very well, and none of them feel like they're overlapping each other. You know, Justin Richards knows how to do a Jago and Litefoot story. He knows the style to it, and I have full faith that, you know, you just nail a Jago and Litefoot story with writing, characters, interactions, and how the story will work. Yeah, quite quickly within the story, the monster's presence is known, and how it acts and how it kills its foes. You know, it feels like a very savage and a carnivorous beast, and it feels like it'd be quite of a difficult foe to beat. Yeah, things are nailed quite quickly in this release, and this is needed to do so because they only have such a small amount of time to nail a story here. They only have 2 parts. This isn't a monthly range release, so you know, they're quite restricted of what to do, because they can't just throw in all this stuff in, because obviously it'll go past the time length. Obviously they don't have a lot of time to nail a story, so you know, some problems can come up, like, you know, some things were missing, or it felt like the story needed a little bit more extension. You know, that's a little bit of a problem where you're restricted in time length. So Justin Richards quickly set up these events quite well. Now, as I said, you only have so much time. But yeah, the interactions as well. At the start of the story, the Doctor goes with Jago and Canine to find this strange, well, energy reading down below the new Regency Theatre, and then Litefoot with, what's his name now? Inspector Quick, that's it, are examining this body which has just been ripped apart by some sort of animal. Yeah, Quick is used from time to time within this story. When Jago appears, then Quick comes onto the scene. Give him a little bit of audio time, which is quite nice, but eventually just fade away from the story, because this is really just the main cast working together here with the Doctor, Romana, Jago and Litefoot and K9. So you know, that's how Quick really works. He's in the audio from time to time, and then he just fades away again and then comes back again. He's never really a heavily utilised character, but it was nice that he did have like a memorable moment and kind of a big scene for his character in a picture this. I think with the foe of the villain, this story has quite a, well, this is what I think. This story has quite a nice homage to The Bloodless Soldier, which is the first story of Series 1 of Jago and Litefoot. The monster just feels quite similar and familiar to the Bloodless in The Bloodless Soldier. The monsters have quite a bit of similarities. They're not the same monster. It's not the Bloodless in this story, but they're quite similar, they are as well. So that might have been a little bit of homage to the Bloodless Soldier, maybe, to have a villain quite similar to them, because they're not just similar of how they act. They're, you know, they're not just savage and carnivorous, but they have some similar traits as well. And yeah, if you listen to the Bloodless Soldier and the Beast of Kravenos now, then you know what I'm talking about. But I won't really say it, because it will spoil quite a big theme of the monster and will ruin what Jago's character is going through. So, you know, I'm not going to say it, I'll keep it quiet. But if you listen to those stories, then you'll know the similarity. You know, part 1, it sets everything up very well. The villain is fleshed out a little bit. It feels creepy and you stick into the shadows and whatnot. You don't see it and witness it a lot in part 1. You can just sort of hear it really, and then it just vanishes. You know, it sticks to the shadows quite a lot, quite hidden in plain sight. And it's definitely a being and a monster not from Earth whatsoever. And you know, this monster has sort of an unnatural feeling to it. It just has quite a creepy feeling to it. And something that would be in like a Hammer horror movie a little bit, which I really do like. So yeah, villain fleshed out quite a bit where you don't know everything about them just yet. You know, the plot really opens up in part 2. We don't know too much in part 1, so you know, keeps it rather, you know, quiet, and then just reveals it all pretty quickly in part 2. Yeah, part 1 is absolutely excellent. Not opening the plot all away, but just a little bit. The characters and the chemistry, the interactions and all that is just absolutely fantastic. And the balance of the elements with comedy and creepy storytelling is done very well. Part 1 I very much enjoyed, and I just listened to part 2 straight away. Yeah, part 1's Califana was pretty good actually. As well, the TARDIS has been stolen, so that, you know, when I listened to that Califana, I got a few questions buzzing in my head. You know, is this monster more smarter than we're making out to be, or is this someone else working behind the scenes? As a question comes up quite a lot in part 1 is, who is the Knave? Now the Knave is sort of like made out to be quite of a mystery in the story. However, it was something very difficult to make unpredictable because of the small cast. So it's definitely predictable. However, that's something I wouldn't really say that's a bad thing, because you can't really get away with it because of its small cast. So, you know, it was pretty much difficult to make it unpredictable. But yeah, whoever this Knave character is, even though it's very predictable, seems he's quite clever at how he works. You know, he puts the Doctor's and Romana's attention elsewhere, where he works behind the scenes and takes the TARDIS. So, you know, he's like throwing them off course a little bit and like messing around with the events so he can do whatever he is planning. He's kept to the shadows, but as I said, it's very predictable, and the Doctor even says it himself. Like, yeah, it's obvious, but it's quite funny that, you know, Romana, Jago, Litefoot, you know, they don't know who the Knave is, but what the Doctor's done in the story, he knows exactly who the Knave is, and that's the same thing to the listener. So yeah, this part wasn't done as a twist. It's just really a predictable plot line. Yeah, in part 2, quite quickly the plot just opens up now. You know, everything's being revealed, and the only thing which really needs to be done is just conclude all those plot points and to stop the villain. So we have to sort out what Jago's going through. We have to stop the Knave and the threats, the Beast of Kravenos. So yeah, the threats in this story are pretty good, I would say, but nothing too special. But they do feel like a very realistic threat for the Jago and Litefoot series. They feel like they belong in a Jago and Litefoot story, and in Victorian London. They work very well in the setting. Not too special as monsters, but they work well within the setting. There was a few little problems in part 2, I would say, which did reduce the rating for me. You know, part 1, it got everything right, but in part 2, it was its concluding parts where it just reduced the rating for me. One small one is that the villain wasn't fully executed, really. I think it could have been a little bit more intimidating. I know, I'm thinking quite morbid here, but I wish I witnessed this monster, this deadly villain that it was sort of built up to be, killing people, because it's rather savage and carnivorous. I want to see that, I do. I want it to rip people apart. But, you know, I'm thinking rather morbid there, but yeah, we never really witnessed the monster at its full peak. You know, it could have done a little bit more, and it wasn't fully utilised what it could have potentially been. It was good, but could have been better. But my main issue with the Beast of Kravenos is this. It was abrupt. The ending was abrupt and rushed. I think to the part of defeating the villain to then the closing title sequence, you know, it was just done so fast, it was. I was like, whoa, was that it? It just went right past me, it did. You know, it just felt so short and just rushed, it did. It was too abrupt for me. It wasn't... I think it needed an extra 3 minutes to, not where I would not have that problem. Yeah, I haven't seen reviews on this at all because it was just recently being released, but my issue with this is that it was just abrupt at the end. You know, I think it needed 3 more minutes to maybe add some more scenes to make the monster more intimidating by killing people. I know morbid mind, but you know, I would love to say that. And just to expand the conclusion a little bit more. Yeah, with that being said, this story was very well done. It was a wonderful release. As it says, the elements being utilised, it was balanced out very well with serious, creepy storytelling and fun, witty comedy. And yes, Justin Richards was the man to do this story. So yes, to characters and performances, we will go to the 4th Doctor, the brilliant, the wonderful Tom Baker. And, you know, it's pretty obvious what I would say about Tom Baker. He's just magnificent, and it's a joy that there's still more 4th Doctor content coming now. And that we have season 7 in the works. We have another Philip Hinchcliffe release coming out. Not sure when that's coming out, I think it's too big announced. But yeah, we've got more Tom Baker 4th Doctor goodness to come. And it's just a wonderful thing, but we're still getting more of it. Tom Baker's character The Fourth Doctor is written quite brash and quite quick-tempered in this one, quite overconfident in his abilities in this story. Does feel like a season 18 counterpart a little bit, which I quite like, and as well, he does utilise a little bit of comedy, which is expected, and it's brilliant. Romana 2, Lala Ward, again, brilliant performances to her as well. I think my favourite thing with her character was actually interacting with Litefoot, of how they were quite similar as characters. I quite liked both of their interactions together, I did. She didn't really have any like standout scenes like the Wave of Destruction, but her performances were brilliant as always. And then K9, he was utilised with quite some originality, you know, with him on stage performing, doing all these fun tricks and whatnot and answering questions. Really just used for comedy really, but it's still very nice nonetheless. And K9 is quite a big thing to the plot because, you know, he's the only one who can detect this strange unnatural energy reading. And yeah, we'll go to Jago and Litefoot now, Christopher Benjamin, Trevor Baxter. Again, it's just rather obvious in these characters and performances because again, they're brilliant of what they do. You know, in the behind the scenes when they're recording, it does sound like they're having so much fun with this story, and it's great for me because, you know, they're still enjoying what they're doing and they want to continue doing more Big Finish audios. That is something great to see and great to hear on audio. I love the behind the scenes to this story. It's wonderful. But yeah, Jago has quite a strong plot point within the story. And then to the two supporting characters, we have Inspector Quick, who wasn't in Justice of Jacksaw, but is actually in this story, so that was quite nice. Again, he's a character not heavily utilised all the time, but appears from time to time. But again, performances are great as well. And then for the only like supporting character really, which has nothing involved in like the Jago and Litefoot series, but just appears in this story, is Sir Nicholas. So yes, to the conclusion of the first story of Season 6 of the Fourth Doctor Adventures, The Beast of Kravenos. So yeah, let's just sum it up. Justin Richards has done a wonderful story to start off the Fourth Doctor Adventures Season 6 with a lovely blend of comedic and creepy elements. This very much feels like a Jago and Litefoot story, and the chemistry with the main cast of characters was an absolute joy to listen to. I highly recommend this release. So I give The Beast of Kravenos an 8 out of 10. Very enjoyable release and a great start for Season 6 of the Fourth Doctor Adventures. It had a lot of strong positives with this release, especially at the start. Part 1, everything was set up so well. Then the plot opened up quite quickly in Part 2. However, I did say the villain could have been a little bit better utilised and the ending was abrupt, but with saying that, this was a strong release. So there we go, that's my rating of The Beast of Kravenos, an 8 out of 10. And now I will do my in-depth rating, which is a new part of my reviews now. With this in-depth rating system, I rate it in 12 individual categories to confirm a massive in-depth rating out of 120. And this is all the categories by here. This release could have potentially got a 9, but with some of its problems, I went down to an 8, but still a very strong release. So yeah, thank you very much for watching my review of The Beast of Kravenos, written by Justin Richards. If you're interested in this release, then down below it would take you to the Big Finish website where you can order it. So yes, next video will be the review of The Starman, written by Andrew Smith, which starts off the monthly range for 2017. Again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a snazzy old like, comment your opinions on the video, and as well my Doctor Who Facebook and Twitter will be linked down in the description. See you tomorrow for my review of The Starman. So thanks for watching, and of course, have a good one.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who, The Fourth Doctor Adventures, The Beast of Kravenos.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to present our star attraction, K9.
What do you eat?
Ball bearings.
He's doing awfully well.
You're quite the showman.
You mean show dog?
Good of you to come in this afternoon, Professor.
I'm sorry I couldn't get here earlier.
Unexplained murder. Just what I need.
It must must be in here. Yes, there's the fella, hiding in the shadows.
Jago! We call him the Knave on account of he always leaves a playing card at the scene of the crime. A knave of diamonds.
Perhaps it's something of a romantic.
All the robberies take place from sealed rooms or vaults.
Stun him, canine!
The creature would appear to be resistant to this unit's firepower.
Whenever the doctor's around, it seems like my job gets about 100 times more difficult.
I know what you mean.
Mr. Jago!
Henry!
Big Finish. We love stories.
Not sure he's in the mood for milk and jelly babies, actually, Doctor.